Hello beautiful, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is an exciting video because after several hundred videos and I think about 2 years on YouTube, I have finally hit 500 subscribers and it's exciting. So today I'm going to be doing a chatty get ready with me, answering some questions that you had asked recently in my community tab and also over on Instagram. If you are new here, hello, my name is Rachel. I'm a homeschooling stay-at-home mom and I really enjoy eyeshadow, particularly colorful eyeshadow. I upload several videos every week. It's all eyeshadow related content, so if you like what you see, I hope that you will consider liking and subscribing. I'm just diving right in. I'm not going to be talking very much about the product. I will tell you which palettes I'm using and what my plan is for them. But I actually had already started this video this morning, and my baby she was up at like 5 o'clock this morning. And I was thinking, oh, finally, I can actually get up early because my husband happened to go to work early. So I had the time, I thought, great, I can film and get this video done because I've been looking forward to doing it, and then the baby just refused to go back to sleep. She just wouldn't. So finally, after trying and being frustrated, and she had me in tears before 6 a.m., I finally just brought her down with me, and she was playing on the mat, and then I was filming this video, and she was this huge distraction. She was making noises and tipping things over and crawling into my stuff and touching everything. So I moved my box, and then I started forgetting things. Like I started the eye look without even putting on eye primer. It was disastrous. It was just such a mess. And then she started getting cranky because she was tired, and I just gave up. So this is take 2 this morning. Let's get going with some questions. Okay, Jessie Ruiz said, what was your first eyeshadow palette and what got you into makeup? You may have answered, but I can't remember. All right, so I'm going to prime my eyes. Everything I'm using is linked or at least mentioned below in the description box. If I can't find actual links, then it's mentioned. What first got me into eyeshadow? If I go back as far as I can remember, I remember playing with my mom's tiny little, I don't know, Almay or Maybelline palette. The thing that she wore to her wedding in 1980. It was blue and purple. There were 5 shades, I think, and it was really, really dusty. Not very good quality. Like, if I were to use it today, I would throw it away. To be fair, maybe it was quite expired by the time I got to it because I was born in 87. But anyway, I remember playing with that. And then much later in life, I remember, I was never into makeup. My mom wasn't either. Like, I didn't get this interest from her at all. In my early adult years, somebody gave me an Urban Decay Naked, the smoky eye one and the rose gold one. And I remember having them and playing with them and having fun, but not really knowing what I was doing. Then later on, my husband and I had a business that we started. It was a machine shop. When we moved to the state where we currently live, we moved here for work. So he actually took a full-time job, but we still had this shop that we were running. We had orders and clients and, things to fulfill. So he would come home after working all day, and he would spend the evenings programming the next day's programs for the machines. We had 2 6-ton machines, like vertical machining centers, and then we had several smaller machines. So he would spend the evening programming for the next day. The next day he would go to work and I would run the machine shop full time. So we would cut mainly aluminum and also some plastics. First I'm going to start with this shade here. It's called Infinite Echoes. So I was running the shop full time, and I have a small art business, and I was noticing that when I came in from running the shop, my arms and hands were very oily and greasy from running, these big machines. And I didn't want to sit down at my art desk and work on projects like canvas and paper and things like that when I was all dirty and greasy. So I kind of stopped doing that during the daytime, and yet I was feeling like I really wanted to be creative. I really wanted to be feminine because I was doing, I was running a machine shop, and that felt like it tapped into the more tomboy side of my personality, and I wanted to tap into the feminine side and be creative and express myself with color and whatnot, but I didn't want to do that by soiling all of my materials on my art desk. So I remember these eyeshadow palettes and went and dug them out, and I started playing with eyeshadow, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I went on YouTube and I found Judy, and through Judy I found ColourPop, and then I ended up going to BH Cosmetics and whatnot. So that's kind of how I got into eyeshadow. It was a way to be creative and tap into my feminine side while I was still working in a very dirty job. As far as my first palette, I do not remember. I mean, I had those Urban Decay ones, and I know that after that I bought ColourPop. I do remember the Sweet Talk palette being very early on at a recommendation from Judy, and I ended up also decluttering that one quite early because On me, it just pulled so orange, and I really had no idea what I was doing, so I wasn't comfortable making it work. It also had 2 pressed glitters, which I wasn't using, and, you know, learned pretty early on that they were bad for your eyes in general. So I know Sweet Talk was really early. Amy Baker asks, as a fellow homeschooling mom, I love hearing how or why others decided to homeschool. Was it something you always intended to do, or was it a last-minute decision? She also asked, how did you discover your love of eyeshadow, and how did you and your husband meet? So I think I covered my love of eyeshadow with the last question. As far as homeschooling, my husband and I were both homeschooled for at least part of our education. We both enjoyed homeschooling, and we wanted to be able to offer that to our children. We also really liked the time, flexibility, and freedom, and also the religious foundation that we could give our children within a homeschool program. Just a biblical foundation and worldview for their lives. And we are very, very grateful that we're able to do that. I stay at home full time, and I have a 6th grader and then a 2-year-old and the baby, of course. So right now I'm just focusing school-wise on the 6th grader. But for the younger ones, it won't be too long before we start doing actual workbooks, you know, of numbers and colors and things like that. The 2-year-old knows her alphabet. She knows how to spell her name. She's learning colors. She knows how to count. You know, I enjoy it because of the freedom it gives us. I mean, when I was homeschooled, I was in an orchestra, and we traveled internationally and did some concerts. I traveled with my parents when they traveled for business. Up above, I'll card a video where I talked about my time in Italy. That wouldn't have been possible if I were tied to a school, or at the very least, it would have been much more difficult. As far as how my husband and I met, we met on an ambulance, actually, and not in a big dramatic way that you might think, but what happened was he was a paramedic. He worked as a medic for 14 years, and I was a volunteer EMT. I was always interested in science and medicine. I was actually enrolled in a science program when I became pregnant with my first child, but I worked at a hospital in a couple different departments, and I thought, well, why don't I try emergency medicine? So I became an EMT, and then I volunteered at a local squad, and that's where I met him. And he was different from everyone else there. He was helpful and very willing to teach. So I ended up signing up for shifts where he was running because I knew that he would teach me things, you know, he would help me learn, and I was pursuing my interest of emergency medicine, trying to see if it was a good fit for me. It wasn't. I wasn't an amazing EMT. When I left that role, it was okay. But I met him while I was there. So because I started signing up for shifts where he was working, there was started a rumor that we were dating, and we weren't. And we, funnily enough, decided to start dating after the rumors had finally died away. Sand and Sunaholic asked, right now, what is your favorite palette and what is your favorite shadow? I know it's hard, but choose one. Yes, it is hard. I think I would have to say 2022, I ranked the Merry Christmas from Udensai as my favorite, and I would probably stick with that. I mean, the color story, the packaging, the formula, everything about that palette is right, and so beautiful. Everything is right, and honestly, I find it to be incredibly inspiring and just really fun to play with. I've done an entire week of uploads using the Merry Christmas palette, and then I also had other looks before, and I think a few other looks after, and I still haven't exhausted my ideas. There are so many different options that you could get with that palette. It's so much fun. I love the formula. I love the variety within it. It's got some really unexpected colors, and I just find it to be a complete joy to work with. So I would have to say, if I had to choose a favorite palette right now, I would go with the Merry Christmas. And as far as a favorite shade, it's not even in the Merry Christmas, honestly, because when I think about shadows which get me really excited right now, they're not in the Merry Christmas palette. That is a favorite for the whole package, but individual shades, I might choose current favorite, the yellowy shimmer in the Ace Beauté Paledopoly palette, or possibly the shadow called Fossil in the Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay. Both of those are just so gorgeous. They're versatile enough to be used in a lot of different looks. They don't take over, they contribute in the most beautiful way. Probably more so the Paledopoly shadow. So if I had to choose a current favorite single shadow, I might say that lemony shimmer from Paledopoly. Darkfire 1536 asked, are there any palettes that you have decluttered that you wish you could have back? Maybe Avocado Toast from BH Cosmetics. The reason I decluttered that one was because the undertones were grungier, a little bit difficult for me to figure out. I got it when I was, a bit earlier on, and I wasn't fully sure what to do with it. And I felt that the undertones didn't work very well with my skin. So I decluttered it. But honestly, at this point, I'm much more comfortable with those shadows and colors, and I think I'd be able to make them work for me better. They wouldn't be the most striking colors on me, but they were still pretty. And there are some brighter colors in that palette which are pretty and fun. And I know that the quality was phenomenal. So maybe avocado toast, but quite frankly, I don't spend too much time thinking about palettes I've decluttered because I had good reason for passing them along, and what I have in my collection now is all so beautiful and more curated to my tastes and my styles, and I can get, probably the same kinds of looks if I pick around my collection. Danielle Zadora 7637 asked, do you prefer to work in one palette or two or more at a time? I would love to know your perfectly paired palettes. I like to work in two palettes. I don't necessarily like to work in more than two palettes. If I do a palette bingo or something with multiple palettes, it can be a lot. And because I don't have a desk in front of me, I'm working on a stool in front of my couch. Having several palettes going at once not only can be a bit confusing, but more than that, it can be quite untidy and kind of invite messes. A palette might get messed up because I might drop something into it or forget to close it or falls off my lap or something. I don't know. I prefer to work in 1 to 2 palettes and not have too many going at once. It's just a lot. I do like to work in 2 because I feel like the options are compounded. Like you've got maybe twice as many permutations, so it broadens my options but still keeps them manageable. And perfectly paired palettes, I don't know. I mean, I really enjoy pairing palettes, so I'm often grabbing just, hey, let's try these two together and see what I can do. But my Adept Plain Jane palette, which I plan on using today, that one is just an all shimmer palette, so of course it's really fun to pair with other things. I especially like pairing that one with neutral palettes because I can do a neutral crease and then just bam on the lid. So maybe Limoncello from ColourPop or the MAC quad that my sister had made for my birthday. The shimmers in that one are not quite as exciting as Plain Jane. I mean, what is really? So it's fun to take Plain Jane and dress that up a bit too. Darkfire 1536 said, I know Sydney Grace is now your favorite eyeshadow brand. How does it compare to Udenzai? And then she also said, if you could have an eyeshadow palette you wanted, discontinued or otherwise, which palette would you choose? Okay, so how Sydney Grace compares to Udenzai. If I were to talk about my favorite brand overall, as far as packaging and color stories and formula, I would say Udenzai. I haven't yet found anything that beats Udenzai in my experience. If I'm talking about just the matte formula, I'm going to go with Sydney Grace. I would say that they perform comparably. They are both amazing, honestly amazing. The Sydney Grace mattes perform just a little bit easier. They blend out a little bit more smoothly. It's like butter, really. They almost blend themselves. If you see a harsh line, you go bum, bum, and it's gone. Whereas with Udenzai, the mattes, while they are still excellent, they do require just a little bit more work. But I prefer the Udenzai shimmers. Now, the Sydney Grace shimmers are amazing, but I prefer the lightness in formula and payoff of the Udenzai shimmers. They also shine in a different way, which I like as well. So overall favorite is still Udenzai, but just the matte formula is going to have to be Sydney Grace. It works like a dream. Now I'm pulling up Plain Jane. I want to see... Plain Jane has these two right here. This one is what I was thinking of grabbing. It's got some green. Hopefully you can see that in the mirror or in the camera. It's got green in it, but then this one also, from where I'm sitting, it looks brown, but one of the shifts is green. Oh yeah, in this light it's more gold green, whereas the green one that I was going to do is more purple blue green. Oh, they're all so pretty. I think I'm going to go with my gut and stick with this one, ACI 9. Maybe I'll use my finger. Should I use my finger? What's the next question? It was from Darkfire, right? Yeah, she said if you could have any eyeshadow palette you wanted, discontinued or otherwise, which would you choose? I lately have been really excited by, do you see this? I have been interested in the Adept and Heather Austin collab. That one I think is so beautiful. honestly, it didn't really capture my attention when it was first released, but the more I see it, and the more Adept advertises the swatches and whatnot, because they are restocking it, the more I go, oh man, so beautiful. And again, it's a matter of experience. I see color combinations, which before I might not have noticed. I'm just better with color. I'm better with eyeshadow in general. I have a more established technique and preference. So I know what I would do with the palette now, and that is what excites me. I probably won't get it because it's too expensive, quite frankly, unless I were to find it secondhand for a ridiculous price, which is very unlikely because it's Adept, it's a collaboration, Heather Austin, it's limited edition, etc., etc., etc. But I think that one's beautiful, and if I could choose any palette to have, I might go with that one. I also know I wouldn't want to choose a palette that's really old because the formula won't be optimal, so I was choosing something that was newer. As far as things that are actually available now, I have my eye on the Nightshade palette from Gourmand Girls, and I really like the Wildflower palette from, I think it's Lethal. I think that one's really pretty. Now I'm going to grab ACI 10 and just pop that in my inner corner and see how it looks. I put a little bit of the Adept shimmer on my lower lash line as well, and now I've got a glow from ColourPop for my waterline. The last questions were from Sharon Flower 66 and Jessie Ruiz. They both basically said, what brands would you like to try either in the next year or just try but haven't tried yet? I think that I would like to try Glaminatrix and Lethal. Like I said, the Wildflower palette is from Lethal, so maybe at Black Friday, if I really want to and have the money to move around, I might try to pick that one up if it's still available and for sale, etc. And then Glaminatrix, honestly, I can't off the top of my head think of a specific palette that I'd want, but I really enjoy the Glaminatrix color stories. I think they're so interesting. I plan on doing a video talking about brands that have really interesting color stories, because so many brands have kind of, okay, you know, like it's pretty, but it's not unique or not really varied, or wow, that's kind of interesting, you know. Not many brands have that, but Glaminatrix is one such brand. They have very unique color stories. Really challenging, but not in a way that discourages you. It's more challenging as far as you look at it and go, oh, I would never have put those together, and yet they work. I did a winged eyeliner. I'm going to put on a little bit of bronzer. Again, everything I'm using is linked below in the description box. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I am feeling glad that I was finally able to get the baby to sleep, and I'm kind of racing the sun here because there's a window to my right, and the sun likes to come up right there and make my videos extremely yellow. So frustrating. This is the season of life I'm in, and honestly, it's okay. There were years where I had empty arms, and I was praying for more children, and I was wondering why we hadn't been able to have more kids, and it was so easy the first time, and after that we had multiple losses and whatnot. And I remember wishing that I would be in this situation where I have more children sleeping in my home, more little people to fill my arms, people for me to love and hug and snuggle. And they can be frustrating, but they are also such an incredible blessing. And I have to just keep that perspective that when I'm frustrated and when I'm in tears with my infant before 6 a.m. and when I am tired and weary and I just want to carve out a little bit of time for myself and the kids aren't letting me, it's okay, because they are more important than anything I can do for myself. They are one of the most important things in my life. They are valuable, they are beautiful, wonderful, amazing little blessings. And this is just an eyeshadow video. This is just a little hobby. It's important that I have some time for myself, but it's not more important than giving myself to my kids. So when I'm frustrated, I have to just keep that perspective. And I finally got there this morning. And then the Lord even gave me time to finish this video and release some of that stress. So perspective. Typically, I only do 2 products on my face, so today I'm going to go for that bronzer, and then I want to play with this green highlighter. This is from the Aurora Glow Kit from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm just going to pop that here because it's fun. Do you guys like to play with colored highlighter? I don't really care what's in style or what's trending at the moment. I really don't care. I never have. And honestly, I don't even know what's in style at the moment. I remember people talking about Oh, you know, the colored highlighters are a thing of this era. Now we're going into the soft glow. I don't care. I do not care at all. I like the green highlighter for my green look. And I think it's pretty. I'm going to put on mascara now. And to finish it off, I put on some lip products. This is the NYX Butter Gloss in the shade Cinnamon Roll and the ColourPop Lip Oil in the shade Smirk. Here is everything. The look is all done. I think it's pretty. Honestly, I wasn't totally sure how it would turn out, especially because I was mentally distracted about the questions. So when I used the Sydney Grace palette, I ended up using the green matte well after I intended to. My original plan was to use the green matte as more of a primary color, and then by the time I remembered it, I had already laid down my crease and outer corners, but I think the look is pretty nonetheless. Thank you all so much for being with me here today. I so appreciate you. I appreciate all of you who have given some questions for today's video. Thank you for fueling the chatty part of this chatty get ready with me. I enjoyed this video so much, and I have to thank you all very, very much for subscribing to my channel. You are the reason that I have 500 subscribers, and I know it's not a very big number. It is not. It's a really insignificant number in the world of YouTube, but it doesn't matter. I am not trying to be some enormous channel. I don't want millions of subscribers. I am doing this because it's a creative outlet. It's fun. I enjoy the community of people who share a common interest. I really enjoy chatting with you in the comments and sharing my looks and answering your questions and giving you some ideas or inspiration. I enjoy those of you with whom I've connected over on Instagram, people who have messaged me or commented on my pictures, and we just have this little byplay. It is so enjoyable. It is a release from everyday life. It's fun. I am so grateful for each and every one of you who have subscribed. If you've stuck around to the end of this video, you get extra points because you're awesome and patient, and I appreciate you for hanging out with me. Thank you very, very much. You guys are great. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope that you enjoyed this content and you will consider subscribing before you go. Just slowly build up that 500 number. Maybe I'll get to 1,000 next. We'll see. I hope you guys have a really wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!